to see everybody. We're working on bottom turtle defense and escapes. So again, our focus is on alignment, as always. How do we stay in the turtle position and not get choked out? Because the turtle position is, for all intents and purposes, a very non-dominant position. You are in a lot of trouble when you're there, so don't get choked. And then we're trying to create a disconnection between us and our opponent to allow us to escape and get back to generally guard. Rolling to guard is almost always going to be the most efficient way to escape from the turtle, and the reason for that is because I'm not going to be forced to move their body weight. I'm going to be moving myself. Okay, it's always easier to move yourself than it is to move somebody else because they don't want to get moved, so it's going to be difficult. So things where I'm trying to like roll them off of me or like flip them off of me, this can work well, but in the beginning it's going to be a little bit more tricky. So we looked at our Granby last class. And again, the Granby is like a super early stage defense. Most commonly, you end up in the turtle because your partner's passing. And I don't know about you, but I would rather not get passed and then have him on top side mount and holding me down like this. Because now I can't move at all, and it's just really frustrating, okay? Competitively, he also gets points for that. So if he's passing, I'd prefer to get up into a turtle position because now I'm buying myself some time and the ability to continue moving to get back to guard. So notice, as I get up, for some of us, we had a little bit of difficulty with this. As we're getting up, I'm doing the running man. So I'm crossing my legs over. This allows me to get up on my right knee. I'm sliding that knee up to meet my right elbow. We talked about last class the knee-elbow connection. It's always a constant in jiu-jitsu. I'm always looking to maintain a knee-elbow connection. So as he's coming down, I'm getting up, creating my knee-elbow connection. From here, he hasn't made any meaningful connections yet, so it's going to be very easy for me to just drop that shoulder and roll back to guard. Okay? Now, today, we're going to be looking at another early stage defense, and then we're going to look at a more of a middle stage defense where they have some type of connection on us. So first, we're going to be looking at our hook defense. This one is really easy, really preventative, and there's a couple cool finishes that we can do off of it. So here's the situation. For this one, guys, we're just going to start in the turtle. Okay, so we're in this position. And my partner, of course, wants to get 3 different types of connections on me. Hip to hip, chest to chest, and then some type of either direct or lever-based control around my body, meaning seatbelt, direct control, one-on-one, lever control. So he's looking to gain some type of control around my body. So, of course, we don't want him to get all of these connections. If our turtle defense is based on me just not sitting here and letting anything happen, then you have bad turtle defense because guess what? A good guy who takes backs is always going to be able to take your back regardless of how good your turtle is, right? So you need to be preventative and act early. So with this particular defense, we're going to be in the same position. My hand's going to be crossing over. I'm making sure I'm not hitting the mic here. My hand's crossing over, and I'm fencing and not letting him get the connection here. So with this hook defense, what we're going to do is we're actually going to disengage by moving ourselves forward, posting up onto our hand, and creating a hook with this leg here hooking onto their inner thigh, okay? So if we rotate this way a little bit, I'm simply hooking my leg right onto his thigh like this. So what I'm doing is I'm creating a frame in between the two of us. So I'm here, I'm fencing, I'm not letting him grab me. I post this hand forward and I create a frame in between the two of us. All right, and this is it, this is the hook defense. How I move from here, now it's up to me. Okay, I'll show a couple different options that you can do. If I manage to continue to hold this grip here, I'm going to start to lift my hips up and just swing back down to the floor to go back to guard. If I'm more of a wrestler, I can whizzer, heavy on the whizzer, and then swing back down to guard. If I'd like to, if I manage to get some serious disconnection, I can even start pushing on the face and just disengage and come back to my feet. Again, if you're more keen for wrestling, that would be great too. The last option would be the Granby. I get the disconnection, so I just go to the Granby. All right, guys, but again, this is creating a block in between us and our opponent via a knee frame here. And then once we have that frame, you can't just wait there because remember in jiu-jitsu, to deal with a frame, we either change that frame into a lever or we change our orientation to the frame. So in this situation, if I just sit here like this, that's fine, but he can start collapsing my knee down and then coming back in. So it's just a momentary pause to keep them away from you. All right, guys, so I'll show one more time. If you'd like to, as always, you can certainly practice it in the context of coming up out of the guard pass to get back to turtle, okay? So what I mean is, like we did for the Granby, let him start passing, come up, and then start to get that knee frame here. But notice how I'm always checking this arm. I don't want him to get some sort of connection on my body, okay? So again, just a quick rundown of some of the finishes. The most simple, guys, is to post on your hand here, lean on him with your shin, and you're just gonna kind of swing your body down to the floor. Okay, we can do that by holding the wrist like this. We can do that with a whizzer, meaning I get an overhook here, and I'm pointing his shoulder down to the floor. With the whizzer, for those of you who did our 2-on-1 last month, we could immediately swing down into triangles or into omoplatas and arm bars and such. Okay, but again, there's so many good options from here, provided that I have a good knee frame. I could just push, break his posture and get away from him, or my favorite, of course, you guys know me, good old Granby, and just get back to where you started. Okay, so I'll show one more time. I'll just choose an option at random to finish. I'll do it in context of the guard pass though. So again, we're here, he's passing. So that time I just stood up, okay? But again, all we're looking for is just getting that shin connected to his hip here. Focus on using that hook to not let him get around that leg. Because if I'm lazy with this, and I'm just kind of keeping a loose foot, he can just drag my leg. Uh-oh, and now we're in a lot of trouble because now he's in the turtle and he's behind us. Okay, I'll show it one more time. Let's do it from this side. So he's passing. So I get up into turtle just like we did before, post my hand, and then hook right here, okay? So I'm leaning forward actually, guys, because I want to get away from this person, so I'm leaning forward. Again, I could just swing into him, come back to guard. I could go whizzer. I could break his posture and stand, or hit the Granby, just like you guys did last class. Any questions? Super easy, guys. Use the hook, frame, and then get out. Ready, 1, 2. Okay, so I hope you guys can see, like, this is very early stage again. It's pretty easy to do. So, again, this is provided that our opponent has started to creep up and get a little bit more control on us. Namely, they're looking to get those hips connected. The Granby is just like, I don't let any connections happen, and I immediately Granby to get back to guard. This is, they're starting to creep in a little bit, and we're here, and I need to get that knee in between the two of us so I can get away from him. Okay, so it's basically like if I'm trying to keep somebody away from them, away from me, I'm gonna like push them away with my arm, like a stiff arm here. It's the same thing, but my arms are occupied, you know? I'm here protecting the neck. One hand is using as base, my other hand is preventing his connection, so I'm just using that knee. Technically, you're using the hook, right? That's what you're thinking. Hook that foot onto his hip, but your shin is the frame, and that's the thing that you're using to keep him away. Quick note before we look at the last thing. If you're gonna whizzer, so he's got an underhook on me, so I'll show you guys how to do a proper whizzer. So if you're gonna do a whizzer is just a really hard overhook, all right? And it breaks posture through internal rotation of the shoulder. And this is all provided that he has an underhook on me. If he doesn't have an underhook, then I'm just gonna take his back. Underhooks prevent back takes, so if your partner does something silly like pulls his arm out, cool, now you get to go on his back, all right? But provided that he has an underhook on me, I have this whizzer. If I want to really push his shoulder down, I can just kind of use my shoulder like this, but if I reach down in between my legs, like I'm reaching for my groin, that's gonna make it way more of an effective whizzer because I'm creating a lot more internal rotation on the shoulder as opposed to me just trying to pull and push my shoulder down. I don't even have to use much of my shoulder as long as I reach down and start straightening my arm. It makes it way more efficient to break his posture. So if you want to do the whizzer, you're reaching in between your groin or in between your legs. So now let's look at your 2-on-1 defense or like a baseball bat grip. So this is provided that they've already gotten hip control, hip to hip, but they haven't gotten the upper body control. I hope you guys can tell, like our focus is almost always on preventing the hands from connecting because the hands prevent rotation and the hands allow for chokes. So I'm always being proactive and not allowing his hands. So he's here. So we're gonna be going for a basic 2-on-1 grip on the far arm, okay? Actually, let's switch sides. This is my better knee. So we'll be here, okay? So he's gonna be looking to reach in. And again, we're already crossing our hands over so we can intercept. If I'm doing the home alone grip, I can't intercept. So I'm crossing over. The hand that is furthest away from him goes low on the wrist. The hand that is closest to him goes high on the wrist. So it's just like I'm batting on my right shoulder, right? So I have a baseball bat and I'm holding it up on my right shoulder. So my objective here is that I want to get opposite corner rotational control on him. What that means is I'm trying to turn one of his corners away so that I can get his other corner off of me. Right now, Coach Seth's left hip is controlling my hips. I cannot Granby. I cannot get the knee frame. So by getting this 2-on-1 grip, as I push this shoulder away from me, his hips start to come away from me. Okay? So this is all the escape is. We're getting a 2-on-1 grip, we're pushing that arm away, and we're keeping our head close to that arm. All right? This is creating rotation on this shoulder so that he can't connect his hands. You're gonna feel like it's almost giving up the back, right? Because you're no longer worried about him going to my back. But even as Coach Seth goes to scramble and get to my back, go ahead, Coach. As long as I have this 2-on-1 grip and good head control, he's not actually gonna be able to go to your back. Okay, so we'll back up real quick. Now, provided that I have good head control, this is gonna be effective. If I let my head come down, now I have poor posture. My spine is bent, I've broken the kinetic chain. So I wanna keep my head rigid and driving into him. The other piece is that I wanna be pushing this arm away. If I have this arm, if I'm just cosmetically holding it right here, then he's gonna be able to reach in and get a 1-on-1 grip on the other side. And now he has rotational control on me, and there's no way I'm gonna be able to use this efficiently now, and he's gonna be breaking me down big time. So I'm always trying to prevent that 1-on-1 rotational control, or we sometimes call it a motorcycle grip. So again, if I'm extending this, we're golden, okay? Now, what do we do once we're here? Well, it depends on what your objective is. Just like with that knee frame, or the little hook defense there, I could do a bunch of different things. As soon as I get this disconnection, I can immediately Granby, because his hips are becoming disconnected from my hips. As soon as I create this, I could just start driving into him and put him on his butt. As soon as I get this, I can turn in, get an underhook, and start looking to take his back. As soon as I get this, I could again get an underhook and just sit, go to half guard, okay? You can stand up. The possibilities are pretty endless, right? There's no like right or wrong answer. Again, our focus is just getting that 2-on-1 control in the forearm. So if you were to practice any, hit that Granby. That's what we've been focusing on this week. So we're here. Let your partner put their hips on your hips, right? I'm in my defensive position as they go to reach in. Far hand catches low on the wrist. Near hand catches high. Push it away and keep your head driving into them, okay? Again, keep your head rigid. As your head starts to go down, your hips come up. When your hips come up, you give them lever access and you allow them to start pulling off base. So I'm here, and now I'm pushing. I can disconnect, Granby out, whatever you need to do, okay? So I'll show one more time. He's already got the connection on me, so we can just start like this. And I get right back to guard via the Granby, or stand up, or whatever it is you feel like you want to do from that point, okay? Any questions on this? So a little bit later stage, they've already gotten one piece of the connection. We're going 2-on-1, okay? Ready, 1, 2, give it a go. All right, guys, so this is looking good. I just want to kind of like conclude, and then we're going to get right into drilling. But does anybody have any questions on this? So I'll talk about some of the common questions and problems that I saw. So the first was like the Granby. Some people were having problems with how and when to do the Granby. So remember, we talked about on Tuesday, the two main concepts for turtle defense. Number 1, protect your neck. Number 2, create a disconnection. If I don't create any disconnection between our hips, I cannot do a Granby roll. Okay, so if he's on top, I'm not even gonna do anything with my hands. His hips are touching my hips, his arm is around my hips. He's created a box around my hips. If I try to Granby roll, this is what it's gonna look like. And my hips literally cannot move anywhere because they are trapped in a box. So what we're trying to do is we're trying to get this 2-on-1. He's gonna be reaching in, he wants to grab your neck. And again, guys, just for clarity, I'm keeping my head up because I can talk to you guys. Normally when I'm in the turtle, my head is on the floor, forehead flat on the floor. But again, I need to talk to you guys, so my head's up. So again, he's reaching in, boom, I get that baseball bat grip, and I'm pushing that away. As I'm pushing that away, look what my hips can start to do. It can start to disconnect our hips a little bit. As soon as I create that disconnection, then I can Granby because he's no longer boxed my hips in. I've essentially removed one of the walls, the wall being his hips. I'm not gonna expect him to let go of my hips with his arm, right? I'm not gonna just expect him to go ahead and just let go. Oh, great, now I can Granby. That's not gonna happen, but I can start to disconnect our hips from each other. So I'm pushing this arm away and I just kind of walk away from his legs and then I can Granby. But it's never gonna be just like a perfect solution. You can do a bunch of, like we showed, you can do a bunch of different things from that 2-on-1 position. It could be something as simple as this. If we're in that spot here, I get my 2-on-1. I do this one all the time. I just kind of rotate and go back to seated guard. That's super, super easy. Because when I have this 2-on-1 grip, I'm basically stretching him out, okay? And when I stretch him out like this, it's hard for him to reach that arm in and start to keep me from rotating. So once I stretch him out, I can just kind of walk my hips and just spin and face him back in the seated guard. Timing, though, is always an issue, guys. You have to understand the timing, and you have to understand what their goal is. We looked at back takes last week, so you should have a little bit of an understanding of, like, what would I do if I was on top? I would want to get a seatbelt. I would want to pull their weight towards me. I would want to get my hooks in and this and that. So I should understand what their goals are so that I can facilitate my escapes. Okay, guys? So we did one early stage defense today using that hook, the hook defense, right? We're framing with that knee. And then we did a little bit of a later stage because they had the hip-hip connection. Friday, we're going to go like deep defenses. They have us all locked up. How are we going to get out from there? Okay, any questions? Ready, 1, 2. Come on back and we'll start drilling, guys.